Hey y'all. So yeah, I disappeared for a minute there. I don't know about you, but at my house, March came in like a lion and it's still roaring. And March is over in a couple of days. It's been crazy. Spring has fully sprung here in Houston. We had the pollening, which happened, and the pollening is a big thing at my house because we have 3 great big oak trees in our yard alone. There's oak trees all over this neighborhood, and I have a feeling it's going to be a big acorn year if the amount of pollen we got is any indication. Just nuts. Oh, acorns, huh? See what I did there? Anyway, I'm not wearing a hand knit today. I have been so busy with planting and de-wintering the house and dealing with different house issues that my knitting, I did finish knitting my twists and turns, but I still haven't had a chance to block it. I like to do my blocking outside, and I didn't want to block it outside and have it covered with pollen. I don't really have a good place to block it inside because the cats are very interested in my blocking knits, even when they're wet. They'll lay on them even when they're wet. I don't know. They're cats. They're weird. Anyway, not wearing a hand knit. Not really going to talk about my hand knitting too much today because I'm going to show you a few things. Because I want to talk today about Lopapeysas and Icelandic knitting, which it's spring in Houston. What is a terrible time to talk about heavy pullovers, but that's what we're going to do. Because a few weeks ago, popped up on my YouTube feed a short documentary, about an hour long, which they called Pullover Island in English. I don't know what the name of it is in German, but it's a short documentary produced by a company called Arte, A-R-T-E. And they are, I believe, a French/German production company. But if you go on YouTube and you search for Pullover Island, you will find this short documentary. And I watched it like the second day it was up there, and it was great. A lot of fun, especially if you have been to Iceland, are a knitter, or even if you're not. My husband enjoyed it too, but of course he had been to Iceland and he bought a Lopapeysa while we were there. And I'm going to show you the Lopapeysas that I have knit, and I'm going to kind of do a little bit about the yarn. And I'm probably going to mispronounce things because, as the t-shirt says, Eg tala etka Íslensku, I do not speak Icelandic. And I did not buy that t-shirt in Iceland. I bought it at a thrift store in Houston, which was hilarious. But it only cost me $2 as opposed to however much it would have cost if I had bought it there. Anyway, the documentary focuses on a young man named Peter, and he's a knitter, and they explore a lot of different things about the origin of the Lopapeysa and how the wool is processed through the lens of him deciding that he is ready to do a new Lopapeysa for himself. Well, maybe it's not for himself. He wants to do it because at the end he's like not sure if he's going to keep it or not. But anyway, that's not a spoiler. I mean, you know he's going to knit the sweater, right? But he decides he wants to do like very nice wool and picking the colors, and so he and his girlfriend drive around Iceland, and they go to farms and dye shops and artisanal, like they go to like people who are dyeing wool in their garage, and they go to people that they go to big factories and like in Alafas. So you really learn a lot about the sweaters, and there's also a French connection too, which is really interesting, but I'll let you watch it to find out. Anyway, if you watch it and you're curious about the book that Peter is looking at and chooses his pattern that he wants to knit out of, it's this. In his, of course, it's the Icelandic version, but in English, it's knitting with Icelandic wool. We go, and the pattern that he decides to knit is, ooh, I bookmarked the wrong page. So I was watching it, and I'm watching him flip through the book, and I'm like, I think I have that book, and I did have that book. So here is the sweater that he decides he wants to knit. Okay, and it's a very traditional Lopapeysa. It's called a vidari, which, yes, I know I pronounced it wrong, and but he says that translates to knight, K-N-I-G-H-T. in English. But anyway, so if you want to get that book that he is using in the show and knit some of the things from it, it's St. Martin's Griffin Press, Knitting with Icelandic Wool by Vedis Jónsdóttir. I'll put a link to this. I'll put a link to the documentary, everything. I'll do all that. So yes, I have this book. I've knit a couple of things from this book. I'll show them to you in a minute. The first Lopapeysa I ever knit was this one right here. It's called Aftur, and this pattern became, let me see if I can get you a better picture of that. This pattern became very popular a few years back. There it is again. Because this is the sweater that Scarlett Johansson wore in We Bought a Zoo. And people are like, ooh, that's a nice sweater. And it is a nice sweater, especially if you are a busty girl, because it's knit with the lighter, the let Lopi, but it has the yoke does not come down over the breasts, over the bust. It stays up here, so it doesn't emphasize your curves if you've got curves or more curve than you want. So yeah, it's a flattering sweater. And when I went to Iceland in 2012, I can't believe it's 2012 already. It's been like 12 years already. Almost exactly 12 years, because I was there at Easter time and I bought one of those giant big chocolate eggs and brought it home to my husband. Anyway, so this is my version of the sweater. Using yarn that I bought, yarn that I got on that trip at the Alafas outlet, the Eastex outlet in Alafas. And I did mine in purple with shades of green and darker purple and blue in the yoke. And it was a very fun sweater to knit. Oh, there, that's good. Yeah. So yes, so that was my very first Lopapeysa. Another pattern that I knit from this book was the top, which the top is called Vormergun. I don't know, but this is the top. And this is knit in Pluto Lopi. Actually, no, well, in the pattern, the book calls for let Lopi, which is the light Lopi, like this sweater, but I did it in one strand of Pluto Lopi, that was interesting. But because I wanted something lightweight and kind of floaty, I could get a little bit more wear out of here in Houston. And I did it kind of similar colors. It's only this is like light blue with green and deep purple eggplant stripes. So that was my version of that. So let's talk about the yarns, what the different types, the different designations are, and then I'll show you my last Lopapeysa and what my husband's look like and everything. Okay, so here I have a box of Lopi. So Lopi is the yarn and Lopapeysa is the sweater that you make from the yarn. And I've got, so I've got here, this is Alafos Lopi. And it is the big one, the chunkier one. You get a light colored one. I have a sweater quantity here. One of these days I'm gonna get around to making I want like a heavy one that zips. But yeah, so this is the more chunky weight. It's, I don't know, I guess it's maybe like a heavy worsted. I'm not sure. I can't really tell. Anyway, but that's this one. This is the big one, the Alafos Lopi. And I got that. I got this at the East Tex outlet in 2016 when I went back and convinced my Southern European boyfriend to go to, husband to go to Iceland. He was my husband then, yes. And he did not like the thought of going to Iceland. He thought it was going to be very, very cold. So we went in August and it was still sweater weather. But he was a good sport. Okay, so that's the Alafos Lopi. Now here is the Let Lopi. And let me find a lighter colored one again. These are my leftovers from my, and you can see this is more of a, maybe a sport weight. No, it's bigger than sport weight, but not by much. You can see. Yeah, my fingernails are like all different lengths. They're just they've all been breaking this month because I've been digging around in the garden. Okay, and then last is the Pluto Lopi, and this is what usually you work with it held double because it is very, very delicate. As you can see here, it's unspun. And when you, you just have to be really careful because while you're using it, it can just pull apart. Oh no. But then, you know, you can just kind of put it back together and it's fine. Just keep going. It's very forgiving. It's not difficult to work with. You might think it would be difficult to work with, but it's not. And I have a pretty good amount. I have like all leftovers here. So those are the yarns that the three major yarns that you hear about when you hear about Icelandic knitting. Now, as I said, in 2016, I went back to Iceland with my husband and a few friends. And when my husband and I got there, one of the first things we did was go to the Icelandic Hand Knitting Guild. They have a couple of shops in Reykjavik. We went to the one that's, it's on a corner and you have to go down some steps to get into it. And then you go down some more steps and that's where they have all the sweaters and it's piles and piles of sweaters. Hand knit sweaters, hand knit by women in the country. Like, they were talking about it. They had a really good history of the Hand Knitting Guild in that Pullover Island documentary. And it's amazing how much some of these women who, they're out in the countryside, in the middle of nowhere, they knit so fast. They churn out so many sweaters. It's crazy. So anyway, so we went there, and my husband was trying all kinds of sweaters. None of them looked right on him. The yoke style just didn't really suit him. He wasn't comfortable in it. And then he found, and his is in his put away, so I didn't want to dig it out. So, but here's a picture of it. It's called Sot, and it's not your typical yoked Lopapeysa, but this is the one he got, and it's in these colors, and he put it on, and it was like it was made for him. It looks amazing on him, and he looks nothing like this. My husband looks like, okay, well, everybody says so, and I kind of have to admit it. My husband looks like Dave Grohl. He's got the long hair and the beard and the brown eyes, and he looks exactly like Dave Grohl from a distance, which is kind of weird because I grew up in Springfield, Virginia. So, but anyway, maybe if I'd stayed there. Anyway, so this sweater is gorgeous. A beautiful sweater. Looks beautiful on him. And I started thinking, oh, what if anything happens to it? So I started hunting for the pattern, and I was looking through pattern after pattern, and I finally found it, and it's in this book, Lopi number 29, and it's published by the East Tex. It's number 29, has this pink fluffy one on the frilly one on the front. It's a pattern book published by East Tex. And found the pattern, and it's made with Pluta Lopi. That's the one in the discs, the really light and fluffy one, held double. So I still had some left over from the previous project. I had enough blue and purple left over, so I just ordered some green, and I made one for myself. And where his is dark green, black, and light green, mine is light green, eggplant, and this beautiful cool sky blue. So now we have coordinating sweaters. They're not matchy-matchy, but they're the same pattern, but different colors. But they coordinate very nicely. And I don't get to wear this a whole lot because it's Houston, but one of these days I am not going to live in a broiler anymore, and I'll get to wear my woolly sweaters and all my hats. And I have a hat that matches this too, but I didn't dig it out. I've got a lot of hats. Yes, I have a lot of hats. I have a cat. She's been wandering around the room, and she comes in my lap and off my lap and in my lap and off my lap. Anyway, so I've got to put my Lopi box back together. Oh, okay, all right, you do you. But it's interesting. I was digging down in here to get the Lopi out. I found all kinds of hand spun, and I'm like, I don't remember making that, but I guess I did. I've got a ton of hand spun yarn in here. I need to figure out something to do with it. Look at that, isn't that pretty? That was some Into the World fiber. I think there's a little bit of silk in there too, maybe. Or maybe it's just merino. It's very soft and it has a nice sheen to it. So that is my tour de Lopi. And I know it went pretty fast, but I definitely recommend watching that documentary if you have time. It's about 50 to 60 minutes long, and it's got English subtitles, and make up your mind. And yeah, so I'll put a link to it down below. Also, let's talk about plans. So all my things that I was going to knit and the things I was going to work on, it's like something that happened with the beginning of March with just all the craziness is I just kind of got disrupted in my flow, and I went off on a tangent, a knitting tangent. Okay, so I don't know if you remember me showing you this multi-cotton by Blue Sky Alpaca, and I had 15 skeins of this, or hanks rather, and I started thinking, man, if I used that up, think of how much room it would make, and I could really, like, that would really help with my organizing efforts. So I pulled it all out and I started making a sweater and a chunky, oversized cardigan with it, and inspired by the Baba sweaters. And I think I mentioned this once before. A friend of mine came over and brought hers, and I took a look at it, and no, I am not going to knit a brioche sweater. Brioche cardigan, no thank you. But I kind of looked at the shape of it, the silhouette, and I think I remember mentioning this before, that they say they're one size fits all, but they are not. They are one size fits all skinny people. So I'm making my own inspired by a cotton sweater with this Blue Sky Alpaca. I gotta wind this up today or this weekend. Got a lot going on. I spent all morning this morning out in the yard planting and weeding and watering and mulching, and my knees hurt, my ankles hurt, my hands hurt. I'm sitting here on the floor and I may not be able to get back up. A hot shower helped. But yes, so now I'm working on that sweater. I have been let's talk about this. So to get the pattern, my goal for this year was to have a no-buy yarn year until I go to Rhinebeck in the fall, you know, and then when I go to whatever shows I go to up there, I can get yarn there. But between now and then, no yarn. But the pattern that I found that I really wanted to use for this cardigan was a pattern by I believe it's called Sangenes Garn. It's a Norwegian yarn company, and I found the pattern, but the only way you can get the pattern is to buy the book that it's in. You cannot buy, they don't sell them like individual digital patterns. So I was like, okay, fine. So I go to the site, book's no longer available, book's out of print, nobody has it. I started searching. I whipped out my Google Foo, and the best I could do was I found a shop in England, and they had the book. I think they had 3 copies left. The only way that you could get the book is if you bought 3 skeins of Sangenes Garn yarn. So I'm like, okay, fine. I really want the book. And the book was not that expensive. It was like 10 pounds, which is not really that much because it's a really nice book. And there's other things in there I'm going to make, other patterns. So I felt like I got a good deal on that. And so I picked picked a yarn. I picked a yarn that's like a silk and linen blend, lightweight, light fingering, and I bought 3 skeins of it in a pretty like light, fresh spring green color. And it came, in a few days it came. I was very happy, and I've been working on the sweater. But now I'm like, well, now I've got these 3 skeins of this yarn, and what am I gonna do with it? And so, you know, it's not handy. So, I went into my list I have saved on Ravelry, which of summer, you know, warm weather knits, and I've decided to do the Dando Designs waterfall top, which meant to order more yarn. But I found a stateside company to order the other color from. So it's done in 2 colors. So I've got that light green I used for one color, and I ordered like a bright pink from this stateside company. And we'll go into that more next time. I'll show you the yarns, and I'll give you all the information then. But for now, I'm just going to say I wound up spending money on yarn. But, you know, it wasn't too bad, because it was only about, all total, what I spent on the yarns for the top is under $50. And I don't feel too bad about it. And I've got a big trip coming up, a lot of airplane knitting, a lot of beach knitting. And I'm going to take this project with me because it's already in skeins. It doesn't have to be wound. It's lightweight. It compresses down really well. I'll just, I bought the pattern. It's on my phone. Yeah, and it's not a complicated pattern. You just have to know what you're doing, because the construction, the shaping is a little, well, it doesn't have shaping per se, but the construction of it and the directionality and everything, it's kind of knit side to side. And as I said before, I love a unique construction. So I'm really, really looking forward to doing that waterfall top. And that's going to be my my travel knitting project. Yeah, so yeah, I'll give you more information about that next time. I'll show you the yarns and give you the retailers and such when we come back next time. So until then, try to get some rest, drink plenty of water. This is not a Stanley cup. This is my Aldi cheapo knockoff Stanley cup, but it holds 24 ounces and it keeps my water really cold. But yeah, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, get some rest, keep knitting, and I will see you then. Bye.